So far I've settled in pretty well. Met the players last night for the first time actually. Collectively, I've been watching a lot of football in Laois, been visiting. It's been down to watch a lot of the championship games. So very impressed with the standard. Very impressed with the attitude of the guys generally, and very impressed with the ambition within the county, which is very encouraging for me and my management team.
As you said, yourself and Paul Clancy got along to the vast majority of the Laois Championship games as things worked out. I think from the knockouts on, you were at give or take every game.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I certainly was at every game, and I think the standard has been very high across the board, so it's very promising for us.
You've been running trials in the period as well, and I believe they've been very well attended.
Well, the trial period is over now. Yes, we had big numbers of trials, a lot of guys who are very eager to be involved, and it's difficult for us, but it's also very encouraging. It's hard to let guys who are really eager to be part of the Laois setup and not have them involved. So that's a tough call for us to make in terms of selecting our initial squad. But it's very encouraging as well to know that so many players within Laois are very, very hungry to play for Laois.
What kind of idea did you have of Laois when you were coming into the role? Did you look at, say, a set group of players and think, okay, I want this group in the panel and I have a fair idea of who's going to be involved outside of that? Or have you been given some new ideas from what you've seen at the trials?
No, certainly I've seen new players who hadn't really come to the fore possibly in the championship. I didn't come with any preconceptions in terms of the players who were in Laois before I was appointed. I just knew that from watching Laois over the last number of years that they have massive potential, they have quality players, and that was part of the reason why I decided to take the job.
You mentioned potential. For you, what's the missing element that Laois haven't had to maybe turn that potential into championships? I have no idea what the missing element. I know that the previous management have put massive work in developing the players and bringing them along, and it's not as simple as putting your finger on one item that says this is the reason why Laois haven't performed to potential, and it's not for me to say. I'm not sure of that. So my job now is to try and help the players reach their potential, and that's my job and the management team's job going forward. You've got your management team settled now at this stage as well. Paul Clancy's been working with you for a couple of months, but Donny Norton coming in as the local man on board as well.
Yes, Donny Norton is the man from within Laois, and he knows the players very well. Passionate Laois man, and he's hopefully going to contribute a lot to the management team. We aren't averse to possibly adding to the management team also going forward. So that remains to be seen how we go forward, together, and whether we need to take somebody else in or not.
I suppose Donny is a contrast in many ways to yourself and Paul, who were early in your career, not too long out of football, and he's a guy who's been around for quite a while and of course has the local knowledge that you'll require too.
Absolutely, Donny has fantastic local knowledge. He knows Laois football inside out, and he has that maturity which me and Paul obviously don't have, because we don't have the years. So I think he's going to be a good addition to the setup.
Obviously, working with the under-21s will probably be crucial to any plan going forward. It's going to be a case of working with Pat Rowe, a man who was looking for the job that you got as well. Do you feel yourself and Pat can work together for the betterment of Laois football?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Pat is an absolute gentleman and a passionate Laois man, and I've already met with Pat, and we are definitely going to work together in helping Laois football go forward. I
was reading some quotes from you earlier in the week, Justin. You were saying that potentially a closed season could be a very good thing for players, and that maybe the winter ban is overplayed in some quarters.
I think it probably is. There's I suppose there's benefits and there's negatives as well from the closed season, and that's some teams. I think the GPA approach is probably a sensible approach. Some teams have been out of football for a long time and don't necessarily need the big break, whereas teams who've gone all the way to the latter stages of the championship in August and September probably will benefit more from the break than teams who've gone out in July, let's say. But I think it's a long season, and I do think that there's no need to bang the drum in November and December. Possibly they can do their strength and conditioning training as individual programs, players, but as in terms of bringing players together to be out running on the pitch week in, week out in November, December, I don't really see the benefit of that, and I see the closed season probably being a positive in that regard.
And I guess as well, in terms of the inter-county setup, you're not going to be kicking football in a competitive manner until the first weekend of February. You've no championship games until the very end of May, and I suppose many of the players that you have are quite young, and they'll be involved at third level as well in the period and just after Christmas too.
Yes, and that's key. And there's no point in overloading those young guys. And in football, the way it is, you're judged ultimately in terms of your championship performance, and that's the reality. Some people might argue the league is the most important thing, or leagues is an important thing. The league is obviously important in terms of building towards a championship, but it's still a long way from championship. And keeping the guys fresh and keeping the boys, keeping their energy up and hungry for whenever the big games come around in championship, that's the most important thing.
Just a very final question for you. You said you've gone through the trials process now at this stage. Will you be announcing the squad that you'll be taking into the spring, or will it be something that's kept in-house?
The initial squad has been finalised, and they were all brought together last night. It's not a question of formally announcing it, publicly announcing it. It's a work in progress. It will be reviewed again post-Christmas, and there will be a final squad selected coming in. The squad is the same as the management team. If we're not performing, we'll have to move on. If I'm not performing, I'll be gone, and if players aren't performing or are injured, then somebody, they can make space for somebody else to come in. If somebody else is performing outside of the squad and at club level at very high, playing to very high standards, we'll certainly consider taking that person in. There's no doubt about it. The squad is a fluid element at the moment, and we'll always be open-minded in terms of taking other players in.